Welcome back, guys. Week 6 of the season is in the books, and we have denied Rondale Moore his revenge as we took down the New England Patriots. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications down below. Let's get straight into talking about what happened in our last game. We played an extremely discombobulated game offensively, but we ended up claiming the victory in the end by a score of 20-8 by way of our truly menacing defense that would not be denied our 6th straight win. So now, let's take you through the story of the game to see how this all went down. New England got the ball first, and that meant that Mac Jones would lead his squad out for the opening possession, and he put together an average day at best as he threw for 230 yards, had no touchdowns but also no interceptions, and completed just half of his passes on the day. But the entire focus of their offense was getting the ball to their running back, Ramondre Stevenson. And despite a few nice plays, he could not get much of anything going, as on 17 carries, he could pick up a pitiful 29 yards, averaging just 1.7 yards a carry. His struggles came on multiple fronts, starting with a lot of his carries not even getting yardage, as B.J. Ojulari was wreaking havoc all game long, as he would finish with double-digit tackles, 7 being for losses, and 3 sacks, which we will discuss throughout this game. But even when Stevenson made it across the line of scrimmage, he would be confronted almost every time by Zaven Collins. He was key to containing the run with his 11 tackles, and he even did a great job in coverage, preventing a ton of completions. But their opening drive would be saved by none other than the former Steeler and Chief, Juju Smith-Schuster, as he would have this phenomenal snag matched up with Tyreek Stevenson, and he would end up being their leading receiver over the course of the game, as he would bring in 4 balls for 61 yards. But our defense also wanted to make a big play, and the man who would get it done would be our safety, Budda Baker, who would fly in on the blitz and get to Jones to drop him for the sack. And all of this was his most notable play. He was also incredible in coverage, breaking up passes, and he dropped back in coverage. But this opening drive would be capped off with Chad Ryland kicking a field goal, and he would produce the only 6 offensive points of the day with his leg. That would mean the ball would then go to us, and that meant our own Kyler Murray would take control of our offense, and he also had an average day at best, as he would throw for a little under 200 yards, toss in a score, but he would complete just 13 of his 40 pass attempts. Our opening drive would stall, so he would end up punting it back, but our defense would continue to ramp up as their first play of the drive would be stopped in the backfield by Bryce Huff, which would only be the start of his great day, which we will be further discussing. And then 2 plays later, our pass rush would get home again, as it would be the 2nd overall pick, Michael Allison, who would combine with B.J. Ojulari for our 2nd sack of the game, and it would force the Pats to punt the ball back. We would drive down the field, and it would be the man who wanted to have a big game today in Michael Wilson who would make the big play, as he would bring in this pass from Murray and execute a picture-perfect toe drag to secure the touchdown score to give us our first lead of the game. He would bring in another 2 balls to total 60, but he also did leave a lot of missed opportunities on the field today. When New England got the ball back, we would see the first involvement of a guy we know very well in Rondale Moore. And he may not have had a dominating revenge game, but in his 2nd game as a Patriot, he brought in 4 grabs for 55 yards. This Patriot drive would also stall, and when we got the ball back, we would tack on our own field goal by way of rookie kicker Nate Garfield, which he would make 2 on the following possession. And he would be vital to our victory today as well, as he would supply 8 of our 20 total points. Midway through the 2nd quarter, New England was driving downfield, but it would be Ojulari who would get home on 3rd down once again to drop Jones for yet another sack and force yet another punt. But the Pats would respond on the very following drive, as it would be their former Pro Bowl pass rusher Matthew Judon who would overpower our backup tackle Josh Wells and get to Murray to drop him for the first time of the day. We would then trade some punts to end the half, but in the mix of that, the 25-year-old Christian Barmore would get home to drop Murray for yet another sack in the 2nd quarter. But his production would continue in the 2nd half, as during this punt fest, Barmore would once again, on an unsuspecting Murray, go down to sack him, but this time it would be in the end zone, resulting in a safety. This punt fest would continue through basically the entirety of the 3rd quarter, but the highlight of it all was the rookie tight end Isaiah Farrell's further involvement in the offense. He was the main target for Mac, and he would finish his day bringing in 10 receptions for a yard shy of 50. New England would add that 2nd field goal at the beginning of the 4th quarter, but then when Arizona needed some clock to go away, that's when the returning Tyson Williams got going. He was very impressive in his first game back, as he would take 19 carries for over 120 yards, averaging near 6.5 yards a carry, and he would end up punching in one of the mere 2 offensive touchdowns of this entire game on this drive, and that would end up putting us up by 12. We will skip the majority of what's left of this game because there were a lot of punts and 3 and outs, but the highlights to know are that B.J. Ojulari would get home for his 3rd sack of the game. Bryce Huff would end up collecting his first solo sack of the game. And then in the very closing moments of the game, Khalil Mack and Garrett Williams would combine to secure our 7th total sack of the game. After this one finished, Michael Wilson would stop us to speak in the locker room, and he said he knows the plan was for him to have a big game, and that didn't happen, but don't sweat it. The team comes first, and he understands that. And we responded saying, it takes a lot to be able to put your personal success aside for the team. He's a great player, keep finding ways to lead this group, and he should at least be proud of bringing in that touchdown snag. We also received word that after his incredible performance, B.J. Ojulari earned himself NFC Defensive Player of the Week honors with his 11 tackles, 3 sacks, and a safety. But now that we've finished discussing our game, we can talk about some other matchups that took place around the league. Starting with the Rams, who welcomed the Dolphins, and they miraculously found their first victory of the season by a score of 24-16. Miami got the ball first, and Tua got started off hot as he started tossing the rock around, and he would finish the opening drive by throwing the opening touchdown to Tyreek Hill. Then when LA got the ball back, they started by pounding the rock with Cam Akers, who would finish his day a yard shy of 100, and their first possession would end in Brandon McManus nailing a 36-yard field goal. Then, in the second quarter, the Dolphins' defense would start to take over as they kept the Rams scoreless as the rookie Jonathan Banks got home for 2 sacks, but their offense got very quiet and could only manage a 57-yard field goal from rookie kicker Noah Irons as the first half ended. The Rams got the ball back to start the half, and on the very first play, Atkins would find Cooper Kupp, who would break away for an 88-yard touchdown pitch and catch to tie this game, and that would be his only catch of the day. Miami would follow that up with another field goal, and then later in the third, Byron Jones would make a massive play to pick off Tua, and he would return it 21 yards for the pick 6 score to take the lead. In the final quarter, Miami would respond to the pick 6 by adding Irons' 3rd field goal of the day, but the Rams would chew the clock as they put together a great drive which ended in their rookie fullback Garrett Walker punching in a touchdown to give them the statement piece from 1 yard away. Then after that, we move over to Denver, where the Niners would pick up a huge overtime victory on the road. Broncos would start with the ball, and their opening drive would end in Russell Wilson tossing in the opening score to Greg Dulcich. San Francisco would get the chance to respond as they would look to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey, who would go well over 100 rushing yards on the day, and he would punch in the touchdown to tie this game up. Then in the second quarter, Wilson would start to target Courtland Sutton, and he would end up fumbling the ball as he got rocked by Dre Greenlaw, who also ended as their leading tackler. And then McCaffrey would capitalize on the turnover with a second rushing score. We would move into the second half, and with the Niners getting possession after the break, Brock Purdy would end up throwing a pick to none other than Patrick Surtain, which he would return 17 yards to set up Cameron Dicker for a 53-yard field goal, which he would nail to move the score to 14-10. And then in the fourth, Denver would put together an incredible drive, and it would be capped off with the rookie running back Kelvin Gaines running a touchdown in to put them up by 3. So San Francisco would run the 2-minute drill, and with time expiring, Jake Moody would nail a 56-yarder to send this game into overtime. The Niners would win the coin toss, and after focusing their offense through Danny Gray, McCaffrey would punch in his 3rd rushing score to call game. And then our last game of the week on Monday Night Football has the Seahawks traveling down to the Bay and taking a 27-21 win on the road. Seattle would get the ball first, and Geno Smith would start by targeting DK Metcalf, who would finish with 53 yards, and then Kenneth Walker would run in the opening score. Tampa Bay would get the ball in response, and their rookie quarterback Charles Morgan would start slinging the rock all over, getting the combo of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to a combined 181 yards, but they would finish the drive by giving it to their fullback Michael Burton, who would even up the game at 7-all. At the start of the second quarter, the Seahawks would drive down and set up Jason Myers for the field goal to give them the lead. But that lead would fall right back to the Bucs, as Rachaad White would get his own rushing score to put them up by 4. Seattle would drive down and have Jason Myers nail his first of 2 field goals to bring them within 1, but on the very next play, the Seattle defense would step up as it would be corner Tariq Woolen who would pick off Morgan and take it all the way back for the pick 6. So in the closing moments, the Buccaneers would set up Cairo Santos for a 50-plus yard field goal, which he would miss as time expired. In the third quarter, the Seahawks would tack on a second field goal, and then Kenneth Walker would punch in his second rushing score to move this game to Seahawks 27, Buccaneers 14. So with Tampa Bay needing a comeback, they went extremely pass-heavy, and Morgan would find his rookie receiver Darnell Slayton for a touchdown reception to bring it to within 6. They would make a stop to get the ball back, and in the final moments of the game, Morgan would take a deep shot, and the Seahawks safety Julian Love would intercept their second of the day to secure the win. It was then time to look at the news headlines from around the league for this week, and we get started with mentioning how everyone is talking about how dominant our defense was in our last game, as we dropped Mac Jones on 7 separate occasions. Another defense that was impressive was that of Indianapolis, as Raiders rookie quarterback Kevin Rogan was picked off 3 times by the Colts secondary. We saw a massive upset in Baltimore as the Browns made a huge second half comeback to take down their AFC North rivals in the Baltimore Ravens, and now they look to this week as they return home to take on the Giants in a clash of 2 very overperforming teams. Some more AFC North action of note this week as the 5th-ranked defense of the Steelers will head into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals' 3rd-ranked defensive unit. And maybe the most surprising story of the week, a massive upset went down in Philadelphia as it was the Carolina Panthers who found a dominating victory against the Eagles by a score of 36-7. After that, we had some staff points to spend, so we moved over to the quarterback guru tree of our offensive coordinator, and we purchased the 2nd tier of Iron Nerves, which will boost the throw under pressure for quarterbacks by 2. We could then look towards our upcoming matchup as we will head into East Rutherford to take on the Jets. And this is a team that is in much different position than they had planned. After a failed Aaron Rodgers experiment which had them miss the playoffs, he would end up retiring, and now this team has to figure out their new plan. But before we get to evaluating them, we got a text from Michael Allison, and he said, "Coach, I feel like I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. Did you see me that last week? I had that quarterback running scared on a couple plays, and I want to be one of those guys that can do that every single week. I'm ready to take the next step. So let's bring it to the Jets this week." So then the goal was set to hold the Jets to less than 100 rushing yards, or get Michael Allison at least 1 interception, forced fumble, TFL, or sack. But now to the injury reports. For us, we will be without Elijah Wilkinson as he is recovering from his abdominal tear he suffered in our last game, which will keep him out for the next 3 weeks. And for the Jets, they will be without their star running back, Breece Hall, as he is recovering from a partial PCL tear, but he should be able to return next week for them. And that means the 3rd-year back, Michael Carter, will be taking the starting reps this week. But for the guys who we will have to game plan against, it all starts with their 2 defensive anchors, with the first being their defensive tackle, Quinnen Williams. He completely controls the trenches with his menacing presence and affects both the run and the pass, as can be seen with his 71 tackle season last year, which included 18 TFLs and 8.5 sacks, and he would love to improve upon that this year. And holding down the secondary is, of course, their superstar corner, Sauce Gardner. Now entering his 3rd year in the league, he is truly incredible in coverage, locking down his assignment every single week, and he is looking to continue to earn more Pro Bowl and All-Pro nods. But the young talent does not stop there, as on the offensive side of the ball, their other cornerstone is star receiver Garrett Wilson. He has so much talent, which we have seen over his first 2 years, but he has been dying for some solid quarterback play to help him out, and he obviously did not get that last year with the failed Aaron Rodgers experiment. On the veteran side of things, holding down the middle linebacker position is defensive captain C.J. Mosley. He has continued his Pro Bowl production that he started in Baltimore as he picked up his 6th nod last season, and he has basically seen it all over his 11 years in the league, and the veteran leadership is essential to such a young team. Their edge rush game is led by the 27-year-old John Franklin Myers, and he may not be the focal point of their defensive game plan, but he gets some solid production as he put up 3 sacks a season ago, and he already has 2 this year. And Sauce Gardner's main partner in the cornerback room is none other than DJ Reed. He has worked hard to survive in this league after being a 5th round draft pick, and now he is benefiting on more balls coming his way with Sauce on the other side of the field, as he got himself 2 interceptions last season. Overall as a team, they have average playmakers on offense, with the obvious standout being Garrett Williams, and the offensive line, while older, seems a bit past their collective primes. On defense, they live and die by their young defensive stars, but they still have their deficiencies in other areas such as their pass rush and their safety coverage. Now that we know who we're going up against, we can now set up our game plans for this upcoming game. Starting on defense, we want to defend the short pass. Zach Wilson feels most comfortable when he's able to get those short completions going, so if we can take that away from him, we can make him uncomfortable and test his true skills as a passer. Then on defense, we want to run it outside. We have 2 very good running backs that we can get our offense going through, so as long as we can go outside to escape Quinnen Williams, we should do well. We were then able to set our game day goals for this upcoming matchup. Following the Allison goal, we want to win by 17 plus points. After a tough game last week, this is another team that is playing very poorly, and we need to take advantage of that with a big time win. Next up, we want to get 350 plus offensive yards. We need to have a good bounce back game and show why our offense has been touted as the most explosive in the league. After that, we want to allow 20 points or less. I think there's a chance Garrett Wilson might be able to make some things happen for them, so we'll give ourselves a bit of a cushion, but I still have a ton of confidence. And lastly, we want to get an interception. We talked about how we wanted to make Zach Wilson uncomfortable, and if we do that, we get a good chance to test his shaky throwing and decision making that we've seen in past years. We then advanced through training for the week, and we stayed mostly healthy, with our only injury being Foloronsu Fatukasi, as he suffered a high ankle sprain in practice this week, but he should be back and healthy for next week's game. And with that, we have discussed everything we needed to for this week. If you guys enjoyed, remember to like, comment, subscribe, show those notifications down below, and I will see you all next time as we head into East Rutherford on Monday Night Football to take on the Jets.